Brittany, it is so good to have you back on the podcast again. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, it's so good to be here again. We had such a great conversation the last time I was on. So, yeah, I'm happy to spend a little bit of time and see what we get to connect about today.
I know last time we had the best conversation, and I was just telling you before we hit record, we had so many listeners reaching out, being like, just resonating so deeply with what we
Oh, I
talked
love that.
about, and
Mhm.
and being like, please bring Brittany back. And so I'm glad that
Yay.
it finally worked out because I know it was a really busy season of life for you after our last recording. You got married, you have so much going on. But for anyone who hasn't listened to that episode yet, do you want to give everyone a quick little intro as to who you are and what you do?
Yeah. So, first and foremost, I'm a mom of two beautiful little babies. I have a little baby boy and a baby girl, and they're not really babies. They're 5 and 8, but in my mind, and moms know this, they'll always be babies. So, that's kind of my first thing. And then I've really worked in the field of hormones and nutrition. So, a registered holistic nutritionist, and I'm owner and founder of Brittany Lynn Wellness. And I really help women kind of bridge the emotional and physical bodies in my practice. And this realization of the fact that so many women are seeking the perfect meal plan, they're seeking the perfect supplemental protocol, like they're seeking all of these things that are outside themselves. And what I started to notice was there's actually so much in our internal wiring and in our emotional body that's causing us to be stuck in what I call survival biology and causing our hormones to be out of balance and our nervous system dysregulation and all of this. And I was really noticing in my practice that was the root of burnout, of adrenal issues, of estrogen dominance, of all the things that clients were coming in my holistic nutrition practice looking for help with. And so it really was kind of a light bulb moment for me to pivot and start to work a little differently. So that's where I started to change my practice into more somatic therapy. So working with emotional release, working with nervous system regulation, and it's everywhere right now. And it's great to see that everybody is talking about the nervous system piece because, like I said, it's foundational for women. I predominantly work with women, and this isn't to say that men also don't have nervous systems. Of course they do. But that's really now where my practice sits, is working definitely on the physiology. So I still look at food and supplementation, but my primary focus with clients is really in that somatic piece, the emotional body piece, and the nervous system regulation. And I love this work so much that I just recently went back to school to get my master's in psych because I'm just so in love with the inner wirings and the programming and why we do the things we do and why we don't do the things that we don't do. And again, it's like just, I love the human and I love to kind of help people see maybe where their programming is holding them back. And so the next step will be a psychotherapist blended with
Wow.
a nutritionist, which I feel like is going to be really powerful.
Oh my goodness, what a powerful combination. And I
Mhm.
think that is so, so needed in today's world because our nervous systems are a bit of a wreck with
Just a little bit.
everything that is being thrown at us from the news, from just the day to day of life in today's world as well. So I have experienced this, and I know it is probably something a lot of our listeners who we have a lot of women, obviously, who listen. We have men as well, but I know that a lot of women go through seasons where they feel stuck in their body
Mhm.
and they feel like that creative energy isn't there, that like
Mhm.
life energy isn't there, that um, just like spark for showing up in your business is kind of gone. And it's
Mhm.
hard to be like, how do I get that back? And what I find is that they'll try being like, okay, well, I need to rest. And then they feel guilty for resting.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so can you
totally.
talk to us a little bit about number one, like how do we shift that energy within us and like reset our nervous system essentially? Because I
Mhm.
think we're getting stuck within our bodies. And then how do we rest in a way that we can actually like activate ourselves to feel more creative and get that spark back? Because I don't
Mhm.
think all rest is equal.
That's such a great question, and I'll try to kind of answer it in the order that you asked, but of course I'll go on tangents and just talk about, the states of the nervous system, because I think the first thing is, if you're in that place of saying, I just don't know what it is, like I don't have that get up and go, I don't have that passion, right? Like I call that vitamin P. It's like, what is the passion that you have in your life, your vitamin P? Where are you getting that from? And so often we do live in more of what's called a sympathetic dominant. So for the listeners, if you guys go back and listen to the episode Robin and I did, we talked about the states of the nervous system, right? We talked about the green zone, being really present, where we feel really connected to self. This is a state of regulation where we feel calm, right? This is the green zone. The yellow zone was that fight or flight, that mobilization, that I have to do something. Okay. So this is where a lot of the times we are living when we're growing our business, whatever it is, especially as an entrepreneur. For some of us, it can feel survivally, right? Like it's, if we're not making the money we want to make or what have you, we can be running in that survivor energy. And when we stay in that sympathetic dominant, that fight or flight for too long, remember, the body is designed so brilliantly that it's meant to respond to stress. And if it didn't, we wouldn't be here as humans. So that's an innate intelligence of the nervous system, that when I need to be stressed, when I need to react to a threat, I need to be able to do that. But then I need to be able to return back to a baseline of regulation. So I go back to the green zone, right? Back to presence. Now, I think what happens a lot of time as entrepreneurs, and just take entrepreneurs out of it, like just like you said, the pace of our life, the fact that we know what's going on around the world all the time, right? Like we're actually not designed to know all of those things and hold all of that emotional trauma and all that kind of stuff. So if we are living too much in that yellow, too much in that fight or flight energy, eventually the nervous system protects us by moving us into what's known as like the freeze state. And I know you said, people feel frozen. You use that terminology. And this one state of our nervous system is known as the dorsal vagal. And that was the red color that we talked about in our previous episode. And this is really where the system is in like energy conservation mode. So the kind of belief behind this state is the threat's too big. The stress has been going on for too long. I'm not going to outrun or get away from the stress. And so my body's going to just collapse, right? This is the shutdown mode. And in this state, oftentimes we have very low motivation. We'll find coping mechanisms like scrolling or eating or like Netflix binging or whatever, but we're just really shut off. We're disconnected from self. We're disconnected from passion, purpose, all of those things. And here's one thing I'll say about being in the red is that yes, depression lives here and suicidal. There's a whole spectrum of kind of where we can be in the red zone. We don't want to live in the red zone, obviously. But for somebody that's been running their whole life, right? For somebody who's been, I say, like running the marathon of proving their worthiness, or again, like chasing the dollar for everything, or, right? Dealing with past trauma, whatever. If you're somebody that's been running and running and running, eventually coming into kind of, even though it's the basement of the nervous system, it is a protective measure of the body. So forgiveness and meeting yourself in a different place, meaning if I'm in this red, if I'm in this frozen state, if I'm in this place where I've lost connection with why I'm doing what I'm doing, whether it's my jewelry business or holistic nutrition, it's like, why am I doing, right? Connecting to that why, getting clear on, how do you serve in your business, right? What's the outcome? What are you giving to other people? But before even that, I would say allowing yourself to be there. So trying not to judge the red. And we're so quick to judge ourselves. Like we're so quick to be like, okay, Brittany, snap out of this. You don't have time for this. You're better than this. Woo, right? Go do an Instagram reel, see how many likes you get. So that's a way I know a lot of us feel like, okay, I'm going to stretch myself out of this red. And eventually, boop, will just fall back down there if we're really not honoring the process. And so I think for women, men, anyone who stays stuck in that red, we don't want to be there forever, but I want to understand it a little bit more. I want to understand what's really going on for me, right? What do I really need right now that I'm not giving myself, right? Or that I'm not receiving? Like, what is it? Why am I in this state? And a lot of people find themselves in this patterning of yellow, red, yellow, red. So they're all in, right? And they're sprinting. And then it's like, woo, and they fall into this burnout state where they feel really disconnected. And so I think I answered maybe your first, like the first part of the question, right? Is what do you do when you're there? Get to know why you're there. Like, why am I here? What do I really need? Without shame, even though this is where shame like loves to live, right? Because again, it's like, get your ass up and do something, right? Go prove yourself. So without shame, understanding that sometimes we need to be there. Sometimes being in the basement, it needs to happen. It's where we heal. It's where the body can start to kind of create some level of homeostasis, right? Slowing down all the systems. How do we get out of it, right?
Yeah.
How do we move out of a free state? I think what we love to do again as a society is it's that very masculine force, like get up, push, go harder, grind it out, right? Like what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Like all of these ways of thinking and being that is actually not honoring the evolution and the way our nervous system is flexible and moves through states back to presence. So I would say for that person who feels in the red, who feels stuck, who feels frozen, even if it's just putting your business to the side for a second, we have to find ways of having gentle stimulation. So gentle bouts of excitement, gentle bouts of, I say stimulation, and this can be in so many different ways, right? Getting out of, and this may not be accessible to everyone, and I want to name that not everybody has the means to do this. One of the best ways to move out of dorsal is travel. Is getting out of your stagnant day-to-day environment. It starts to change your neurons, like the neural activity in the brain, changing your environment and having different things to orient yourself to is a beautiful way to wake up that nervous system, is a beautiful way to come back to self. Again, this isn't accessible to everybody, right? You may be saying like, there's no way, I just don't have the money or I don't have the time or the babysitters or whatever. Then it's little things like a cold shower. That's a gentle stimulation, not a ice bath, right? That's society loving to like jam us into like go, right? So something like, a little bit of cold stimulation or getting out and, gazing up at the clouds. Again, like using eye gaze to kind of wake up the system. Laughter, connection is huge. I just asked you before we started recording, like, how's your network been now that you've moved? Because that is a pillar for us to be regulated, right? We know loneliness kills people. And so, it kills people through all different ways, but really we are social beings. We have to be connected to other humans. And so for people that are feeling you're frozen and kind of want to hiding out of the world, something really great to do is actually reach out to someone. You don't have to go to a house party. You don't have to go to Times Square if you live in New York, right? Again, we're not looking to overload the system. We're looking to gently awaken, gently nudge the system. So that's really good stuff. Essential oils are really great as well because they can be really stimulating but gentle for the brain. So things like citrus oils and stuff like that. Breath work, I know, is really popular, again, just for people to start to feel their bodies again. Because when we're in this free state, we're very much numb. We're numb. We like to dissociate. So things that get our body, right, back into like we can actually feel our body in this time, space. Yeah. Does that make sense?
That makes so much sense. And I really like how you shared like just the little ways we can kind of stimulate ourselves. Like it's like having those little conversations with friends and even as it's like just going for a walk with a friend, or those little things that can help shift us. But when you're in that place of feeling stuck, can feel so hard. And I know for a lot of people listening, we have a lot of artists, jewelry designers who are very much like very happy and content on their own. They live in their own little world, working in their studio, designing, creating, and they're pretty, not everyone listening, but a lot of the clients I work with are quite introverted. And so our happy place is being at home. And then we kind of can easily get into that stagnant place where it's like, oh, okay, now I'm kind of stuck in this red zone. And so I love travel, number one. Like, I resonate with that. Whenever I even get to the airport, I feel myself shifting.
You lift, right? It's literally like lifting up the ladder of the nervous system. Yeah.
It's so interesting. And that's why when you get to this new place on holiday or whatever, it doesn't matter how much little sleep you've had during the travel day. The minute you're in this new place, you feel energized, you feel alive, you feel like, oh my gosh, life is so easy again.
Totally.
Yeah. It's so interesting to hear you say that. So,
and sunlight. I just want to say that too. Like, light exposure is everything. I think this winter I learned that lesson the most. And winters usually aren't hard for me. This winter was hard for me. And I wasn't doing my red light as much. I wasn't really, again, I live in Canada. And so it's like, really, I know you live in Canada too, but it's just darker. We have longer winters, all that stuff, than someone who maybe lives down south, right? And the sun directly connects with our circadian rhythm, which directly connects with nervous system. And so, to your point, when you travel, if you go somewhere warm, you're going to probably feel that lifting right away.
Oh yeah, 100%. And then, even just like doing those little things, like you said, the cold showers, or just little things to lift and stimulate ourselves makes such a difference. So, what would you say, like, how do business owners who, like, often it feels like we have the weight on our shoulder when we're building a business, and let's say they want to live in that green zone. We want to get out of the red zone and we want to stay in the green zone. How do we do that? What's the easy answer?
I know. What's the biohack, right? Everybody like wants the hack. I'm like, so here's the thing with nervous system regulation. I would love for there to be a biohack or a button or a peptide or something I could take. But I mean, those things can be supportive, but it takes time, right? It takes understanding your nervous system, learning how to become the driver of your nervous system, rewiring to regulate, right? A lot of us, like you said, rest feels guilt. We feel guilty when we're resting. So many of us actually can't even really handle regulation because we talk ourselves into a spin of, you should be doing something and what have you. So learning to live a life of regulation is, I say, step one, right? Clearing the clutter. And what I mean by that is internal clutter. So what are things from the past, ways of being, programming around worthiness, past trauma, right? Little T and big T trauma. That's all the stuff kind of from our past that can be kind of pushing us into more of that sympathetic dominant state, right? So our programming from the past for a lot of us are 30 something, 40 something, 50 something, 60 something, but we're still living from a manual that was written by a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old, right? We're still kind of living from that space. And so when I say clearing the clutter, this can be done through therapy, this can be done through somatic experiencing work, but it's really understanding the programming of maybe what keeps you dysregulated, right? Even the modeling from parents, like there's a book called The Hurried Child. It's amazing. It's so bang on. And I even look at today, and again, I'm going to say this stuff and some people will get triggered and that's totally fine. But the kids that are in a million sports, like they're 6 years old and they're like rep and high performance and all of this stuff, talk about a chaotic system, right? Kids actually thrive when they're just in exploration, when they have curiosity, when they're outside in adventure, right? And it's more just kind of this self-led play instead of being rushed around and scheduled and tryouts and competition and comparison and all of this stuff is really forming and shaping an extremely dysregulated nervous system. So I bring that up because that's a personal story for myself. I was in every activity. I played every instrument. It was like the most, and I get it from my parents' perspective. They wanted me to be the most well-rounded little girl, right? And I can appreciate that being a mom. But I was so anxious. I was so stressed out in my little body from being hurried and rushed. And I never had time to just sit and be. And you look at patterning and programming like that. And then what I ended up doing as an adult was the exact same thing. I only knew how to burn myself out. My schedule was insane, right? I couldn't pack a 15-minute break in my schedule because this is just what was modeled. This is what I knew to be normal. And I think a lot of us have that programming, right? More is better. More is better. So that's kind of looking at the programming, and I call it clearing the clutter. So the things that are like deep within us subconsciously that are keeping us from living in the green, that are keeping us in more of this. Again, I'm running from the threat, right? I'm in this survival biology all the time. Now, there's going to be times always, because it's life and this is a human experience, right? So there's going to be times where you're just going to have a lot of shit on your plate and you're going to be stressed out and you're going to be more in that sympathetic. There's going to be times where you legitimately have to react and run from something. There's going to be times in your life where, again, I'm not saying that to have this fight or flight reaction it's needed. It's just we don't want to live there. That's my point, right? We want to be able to respond and then come into green. So again, things like I go back to vitamin P. Where do you find pleasure, passion? What did you love to do when you were a little girl? This is something so cute, so sweet with one of my clients. She's like such a hard worker and like A-type and so high performance and all of this stuff, and has developed autoimmune and different things. And so for her, like, play is really hard. It's really hard for her to do that. And she has kids. And I always tell her, when you go to the park with your kids, play. Like, get on the slide, get on the swing, get on the rocking hippo. Like, go and be a kid. Go and feel that energy of play, because play is the green. Play automatically kind of brings us into that regulation. And as adults, we have no play. It's like we become adults and we lose imagination, right? Everything gets really like negative and pessimistic, and everything gets really hard, and all of those, that's like where we live as adults. And so I think bringing that play option back, or anything, it could be a hobby of one of my clients, loves making bouquets. It was something she did when she was younger. And then when she became corporate, she obviously let that passion go. And so I'm like, great, Tuesday afternoons, you make bouquets. That's that's your protocol, right? It's not a B supplement. It's not gluten-free. Let's bring more of this play energy. And it's amazing to watch how the body responds when you learn to live in a more regulated state in the green zone. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That resonates with me so, so much, Brittany, because I was the same. I mean, I grew up in South Africa before moving to Europe, and the school systems there are very much like they want to produce all-rounder kids. So they're very into all these activities. And I think it was okay. But when I moved to Canada, I was horrified by the level of activities, because they took what we do in South Africa and like times it by 10.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is intense. Like, I have friends who have kids and some of the activities go till 9 at night. And I'm like, I'm in bed at 9 at night.
Yeah.
And then it's weekends. And then there's these competitions. And I've thought about that a lot. Like, it feels so structured and so, like, I don't know, it makes me feel, what's the word? Like, I can't remember the word, like suffocated by all that
chaos.
stuff. And I can totally see how growing up in a way where your life is so rigid and so like hurried and you have all the stimulation all the time and you don't have that space to just be when we become adults. And then we go in the corporate world like I did, where again, there's not that space to just be. And we are rewarded for overworking. We're rewarded for just pushing through all the time. It's so hard then for us when we hit like our 30s. And I feel like our 30s is kind of when you start getting the autoimmune responses from a life lived in that state where you're like, oh shoot, well now I have to listen to my body because now it's kind of shutting down on me and I have to change things. And just hearing that story about your clients who started making bouquets, it's made me remember, like, I love making bouquets. And in summer, I go to this farm and I go cut the flowers and I make them, and I completely forgot about that. But one thing I've started doing recently is I got this like pull, like I want to start watercolor painting, and I've never watercolored painted. I had the most beautiful set of watercolors when I was a kid. It was gifted to me and I never ever opened it because I wanted to use it when I was good enough to use it. Oh my
gosh.
And I think about that so much because I had it for like 10 years. On my shelf. I was so excited about it. So excited. And I would open it and look at it and I was like, I can only like use it when I'm good enough.
Which is so funny, right? Because we have to start
crazy.
To get that's so interesting. When you say that you get the pull, like when you're like, oh, I just felt this pull, what did that feel like? Like what voice was that inside of you? Can you distinguish kind of what part of you that was?
Yeah, that's really interesting. You know, I just for like 3 days, all I could think of was like that craving to just be like be in my body and just be like, I don't know, just be doing something with color and like and just bringing something to life. And I went and bought a whole lot of watercolors, bought a ton of papers, and I'm like, my mission this summer is to use every single one of those papers and all the paints I bought because I'm trying to get over that like have to save it till I'm good. And I'm having so much fun with it. And it's so interesting because it's made such a difference to how I'm feeling. I feel like it definitely like shifts you into that green state. Like you can feel the presence and the peace and not doing I'm not listening to podcasts while I'm doing it, which was the plan. I was like, oh, I'll multitask. And now I'm like, no, I'm just going to paint. I'm just going to paint for a few hours every week. And oh my gosh, it's so beautiful.
Yeah. And I find that's when I talk to spirit, I talk to God. I really have been leaning more into my faith this year more than anything. And I find it's when I'm doing those things, I actually have a deeper connection. Like when I'm really connected to myself or I'm really connected to the earth and I'm out on a walk, and to your point, not listening to a podcast, like not inputting information and data all the time, right? More and more and more. When I'm really just present, and I'm looking at the trees and I'm looking at now the little buds and blooms that are coming up here in spring. It's like I just feel so connected. I feel so taken care of and so supported. And I think that when, again, we're in this hustle and we're trying to do all of these things, you said it perfectly. You said, and I just feel like I'm so in my body when I'm doing it. And that's exactly right. And that is green. That is green, right? I'm so in this moment, right? Even in this podcast right now, like I know where I am in this time and space. I'm looking right at you. I'm connecting with you. Now, interesting, because I'm still in a little bit of yellow, right? I'm still activating and we're talking in this conversation, we're engaging, but it's not in a way that feels dangerous or feels like a threat, right? So I'm like in a little bit of a blended state. You can blend with green and yellow. So if you and I were playing like pickleball or volleyball or we are hiking, right? We'd be in a blended state because we are mobilizing, we are doing something, but we're connecting and, just having a lot of fun, and it's that play energy. Yeah. And so that's why being in the yellow is not always bad.
That makes so much sense. And I guess when you're building a business, I mean, especially a jewelry business, because there is that creative element to it. And I think sometimes what happens is we shift out of that creative part as like being fun, and we see it as like, oh, this is money, like I have to make money through this creativity. So it takes away a little bit. And so just being able to, like, for anyone listening, like, I guess really create that space to enjoy that creative process again, can make such a difference. And then you're kind of blending that, like the doing and the creativity fun part together.
It's like any time we, like, money is survival for a lot of people, right? And money is a whole other conversation. But often regulation brings a lot more abundance. I'll just leave that. Maybe that's a whole other episode we can talk about. But when we do live more regulated, the abundance does show up, right? We open ourselves up for more flow. I think when we step into a business with something that's so creative, right? So in our left side, so in that flow of like creating this beautiful jewelry, but we connect it to something that is of survival. When we connect it to, this is a means of how I make this money, right? There's like a double healing there for that person, because they really get to heal that money block as well, as they get to bring in that left side. When I say left side, I mean more like feminine energy. And I think there's this like weird crossing happening right now in messaging too, that I see in society, or maybe this is just how I'm interpreting it, that if you're in your feminine, you can't make money. Like
I've seen that as
right?
well.
There's like weird lingo around it. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm like a feminine and masculine expert and that's all I teach about, because it's not. But we can be creative, and we can be successful, and we can be creative and in flow, and we can have abundance, and we can make money, right? And these things can exist. And how we make money doesn't always have to be tied into being in survival biology and right, it being so wrapped up in stress. However, that's part of clearing the clutter. So I would say, let's look at your money story. Let's look at how that was presented to you as a child, right? What's the messaging around money and all of that? And it's so emotional for people. I know it was for me. It was huge for me moving through that money stuff. It was very, very emotional.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine. I mean, money is one of those topics that people really struggle to talk about as well. And they feel a lot of shame around. And they've told themselves some stories from growing up, like money's scarce, and like people like aren't spending money on this, and that. Even with like the tariffs and everything happening in the US, like it's a hot mess. But also, there's so much money being spent everywhere. There's so much abundance in the world still. And those money stories make the world of difference. So I'm so glad. I think we need to bring you back on for a whole episode just on that. That would be so fun for us to deep dive into. And so for any, like, I know you work with obviously a lot of women, helping them reconnect to their bodies. And I'm curious to know, what are the most common lies that, women have to unlearn first?
About our bodies?
Yeah.
That they're against us. I think that we, as women, it's like we hit a certain age and everything is about, and again, I go back to like the narratives of just what I see on social. It's like, how is your body going to betray you, right? What's your next diagnosis going to be? We're like searching for things. We're looking for things. We're always kind of waiting for something to break in the body. We're confused when our bodies aren't working properly, yet we've been living in survival, or we've been putting maybe not so clean stuff inside our bodies. We haven't been giving it the information that it needs. And then we're confused when it's not working properly, right? Or there's something we need to fix about it. And I would say the best, like when you can link arms with your body and become your body's best friend, that is when the shift will happen for you, right? You will find the right practitioner. You will find the right method. You will find, I actually find, not to use that word again, but I find that when you reconnect with yourself, right? Spend more time in regulation, spend more time in the green, get closer to God, get closer to nature. You don't want the crappy stuff. Like you're so conscious with your choices that food becomes a conscious choice. It's not something I'm doing out of dysregulation. I need sugar because I'm super dysregulated. I need caffeine because I'm in the red. Like you're so much more connected to what you're putting in and on your body, if that makes sense. So I always do this. Did I even answer your question? Yeah, I feel like I did.
Yes.
Yeah. What was your question?
It was, helping women reconnect with their
Oh
bodies
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. What
unlearning
was
the
the number one thing I
lies.
see? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
that like we hate our bodies. We
Yeah.
come to, it's funny, I'll do it like a discovery call with clients. And if they say to me, I need you to kick my ass, right? Like I just need someone to whip me into shape. I need someone, like as soon as I hear that language, I'm like, oh my God, you are so against your body in this journey. Like it's you versus your body. And that never, ever turns out well.
Mm.
Um, and I'll say like, I'm not your person. I'm not your coach because I'm not going to kick your butt. I'm not going to talk to you like that. I'm not going to hold those rigid structures and whatever. Like we have to walk out whatever you're healing from. It's like, I can choose to do it through love or fear. And it's the women who choose to do it through love that really do see the transformation. Like they really do get there. The women who do it from fear, and I can speak to this because hello, this was my journey. When we get a diagnosis or something seems off, we go into fix it mode. We often want to fix it. So we go down these like rabbit holes and again, it's like we just in trying to fix the thing, we're in survival biology, which is most likely causing the thing, if that makes any sense. So we're chasing these symptoms while the very chase itself is keeping the symptoms going. Does that make sense?
Mm.
So it's this kind of this idea of like meeting yourself again and walking out whatever the healing journey is, walking it out from a place of love. And that's a very blanketed statement because you could say, well, how do you do that? There's a variety of ways to do it. But the foundation is knowing that your body's designed to heal. It's brilliant beyond anything a man could ever create, right? Or man, I don't mean a man, but man, any iPhone, any whatever, any rocket ship, anything. Like your body is 100 times the intelligence. It knows how to heal. It just has to be given the right environment to do so, right?
Mm.
So it's just regaining that trust again that we've lost, which I blame the medical system.
Oh yeah, I know.
Or
It
just
like our
like, yeah,
bodies are
disconnecting us.
so much more intelligent and like innately intelligent and protecting us and like doing what's best for us. And it's really sad that we've lost that trust within our bodies and that we have to like go through such a process of relearning. But
Dr. Zach Bush, I don't know if you know him.
I'd follow him. Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
He's so great and I love his teachings and his seminars and stuff like that. And yeah, he just talks about how disconnected we are from nature, how disconnected we are from the soil and how we are one with, we are made from the same things we are. And so again, it's like coming back to the root of everything and we can chase all the cool things and the peptide therapy. And I still promote progesterone. I still promote hormones like I really do. So I'm not going to sit here and say I don't, but at the end of the day, it's coming back into self. It's coming back into what we're talking about today, which is back into connection and connection to self. Yeah.
So beautiful. Oh my goodness. Well, I think we should wrap it up there
Yeah.
because this has been so powerful, Brittany. And I definitely would love to bring you back on to talk about the money mindset. And I mean, there's so much here that we could deep dive back into. But thank you so much for joining us. And I know that we're going to have so many listeners who are going to have deeply resonated with what you shared and they're going to want to follow along. And can we share your new podcast as well?
Oh, yeah.
Because they're going to love it. So where can our listeners, the podcast series, where can our listeners find you and how can they support you?
So I am, so on Instagram, you can find me at Brittany Lynn Wellness. And I'm on and off there. And really it's just because of the season of my life. Usually I'm super active, but with school and everything, I'm a little less active on there. And then the Anxious Girl podcast launches May 6th. And this is going to be a bi-weekly kind of Anxious Girl podcast series where we are talking about anxiety from all different angles. So the goal is for you to meet your anxiety differently. We talk a lot about nervous system, obviously. And I have different experts come in and just talk about different things like how our gut microbiome connects to anxiety, right? How the past and trauma and all this. So tune in. It's going to be a minimum of 6 months. And like I said, it's going to kind of walk anybody who's dealing with anxiety. You're going to find something in it from one of the angles that we come to the table and talk about.
Amazing. It sounds so, so good. I'm excited for that to launch.
Yeah, me too.
So we'll link all of those in the show notes so you guys listening can go and follow along and check out Brittany's podcast. But thank you so much, Brittany. This has been so powerful. I really appreciate you coming and joining me again.
Absolutely. Okay, we'll see you guys.